Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be episode 39 of Your Questions Answered. If you're not familiar with it, Your Questions Answered is a Q&A series that I do here on this channel, so if you want to see your questions answered in one of these videos, leave in the comment section below. Make sure it's Lego Star Wars or Lego Star Wars related, and then check back next week to see if you make the cut. Also, wasn't able to have an intro this week, but it is something that I'm always accepting, so I'm going to keep urging you guys, send me in custom intros for these videos. I would love to be able to show off your creative side or your funny side. Who cares? Just send it to me and make sure it's, of course, appropriate for one of these types of videos. So without further ado, let's jump right into the questions. First question today comes from Blue Brick, and he says, thanks for answering my question. Do you have any hopes for the new Star Wars trilogy in the works? So yeah, this is actually a really important thing to me. I think that while I am a big fan of the sequels, they have kind of been hampered down and almost held back by the fact that they've had to kind of cater to the old guard and really have to bring in a lot of familiar elements with Star Wars. I would really love to see a new fresh take on Star Wars that maybe isn't so reliant on things that we're familiar with or things that we've seen in the past. So I feel like the new trilogy, we can get past the need for fan service. We can get past the need to kind of bring people in that maybe had become disenfranchised with the prequels after the original trilogy. I feel like it would be just a good opportunity to give us a fresh new take on Star Wars in general. So really just anything that we haven't seen before. I know that it is heavily rumored that the Benioff and Weiss series is going to be in like the Old Republic era, which I am totally fine with. The Old Republic, specifically Knights of the Old Republic, is one of my favorite video games of all time. So I would really love to see what they would do in that era of Star Wars. The most important thing to me about that is that it is so far removed from anything we've seen before that I feel that they can work really hard to develop new and iconic things for us in Star Wars. If there's one thing that I really do want to see when it comes to this new Star Wars trilogy in general, is just new iconic things that I can get attached to and really just fall in love with. I mean, all the old stuff in Star Wars is great, but I feel like if Star Wars is going to move forward as a franchise, we need to start developing some brand new, fresh things. So that's key to me. I'm also really excited for the Rian Johnson trilogy. I'm not really sure what it's going to entail, but I trust him. I know that he gets a lot of flack for The Last Jedi, which is really whatever. I love The Last Jedi, but I'm really interested to see what he can do once again without kind of having to adhere to old characters or try to write into like a middle piece of someone else's story. I would really love to see what he could do when he gets to write the story from beginning to end. So very much so looking forward to both of those trilogies. They're not going to have to be hampered down by fan service or callbacks or things that we're familiar with. They can really just go really off the cuff and do something fresh, and I think that's the most important thing to me about these new trilogies. Next question comes from Darth Fury, and he says, where the heck is the complete saga at? Isn't it supposed to be weekly? Yes, it's absolutely supposed to be weekly, but I have just ran into so many hiccups in the past few weeks with trying to get those most recent episodes out. So let me kind of break it down to you guys. I had a few episodes recorded. I had basically, I think, 3 episodes recorded, and it was going to be basically chapters 4, 5, and 6 in episode 2. I got chapter 4 recorded. It got put out. Chapter 5 was Gunship Cavalry, and I accidentally deleted it the first time, which was obviously a big problem because I wasn't able to put it out. So had my friend John Cena come back over. We re-recorded it. It was good to go. And I don't know how. I literally have no idea how this happened, but somehow I deleted it a second time. So I actually just had John Cena back over here today, and we were finally going to get it recorded so I could actually continue with the series, because I still have chapter 6. It's literally just sitting there on my computer, but I want to have it kind of released in a chronological order, so I wasn't going to put it out before chapter 5 was put out. So John Cena came over earlier today, and I literally just ran into 3 separate issues with trying to get it recorded. First, when I tried to like connect the controllers to my computer via Bluetooth, because we recorded on my laptop, but I connect PlayStation 4 controllers to it that we can use, so we don't have to use the keyboard or something like that. First thing, the controllers wouldn't connect, so that was annoying. And then once I finally got the controllers to connect, I ran into an issue where whenever we loaded up the game, it was just like lagging out really bad. Like it was unplayable. So I had to try and resolve that issue. And then once I finally got that fixed, And I mean, I thought I got it fixed, but given this next issue, I'm really not even sure if that even got fixed. But from the next issue, the game simply just wouldn't load. Like literally, Lego Star Wars would not load on my computer, so I had to uninstall it and reinstall it. And then by the time I was able to get all that done, Cena had to go. I had to head off to work. It was really just a bad scenario altogether. I don't know what it is about Gunship Cavalry. I swear that level is cursed because we have played that thing so many times. Not even to mention, whenever John Cena actually came over here to record it, we ran into recording issues like 3 times that made us have to re-record the episode 3 times. I swear, guys, we have played Gunship Cavalry so many times at this point. It is literally infuriating that we're gonna have to play it again and re-record it. So just hang in there, guys. We're gonna get some more episodes recorded on Sunday. I promise you, I will not accidentally delete them, and they will be more of a regular thing in the near future. So I'm sorry that like the Complete Saga series has kind of just fallen apart in the recent weeks of my channel, but I assure you, I'm working hard to make sure that does not happen again. So yeah, gotta play Gunship Cavalry again. Not looking forward to that. Next question comes from Woven Tenacity, and he says, what is your favorite non-canon or expanded universe set? Yoda Chronicles, Freemaker, etc. This is a great question. I'm honestly surprised that it's just now coming up. If I had to pick one of my favorite sets from the EU or that's non-canon, I firstly would have to probably say the Jedi Defender class shuttle. I love the design of that ship. It, like I said, KOTOR was one of my favorite games back in the day. Obviously, this ship is not from KOTOR, it's from the Old Republic, but I feel like it still has the same aesthetic as a ship from KOTOR. It's kind of designed in that same way, and it's actually just a really cool set, and it comes with 4 amazing minifigures. So I think that definitely has to be one of the best sets that we've gotten from the EU. Another set that I feel doesn't really get mentioned a lot, but I actually like quite a bit, is the Rogue Shadow. I think that the set, I mean, it's very out of scale. I think in canon, it's actually a much bigger ship than the Lego set would depict. But I remember getting that set, and I had so much fun with that thing as a kid. I really loved the wing and engine mechanism, how when the wings fold up one way, the engine kind of goes against it and folds up the other way. You really just have to check it out to see it. But I like the aesthetic of the ship too. I think it's just a really cool looking ship, and that was a set that I got when I was younger, and I never even played The Force Unleashed. I think I maybe played like a demo of it, but I really had no attachment to the game. But I remember really wanting the set because it was such a cool set. So those are probably 2 of my favorite non-canon or EU sets. Next question comes from Frank's Fantastic Bricks, and he says, if you had to remake one of your past mocks that are large scale, what would you do and how would you make it better? So in terms of just general the large scale mocks that I've done, like if I had to redo Crate, one of the biggest things I would want to do is make it bigger. I think that the length that we went for was fine, but it was a relatively narrow mock. I would want to make it much wider, and that way I'd be able to incorporate more walkers. I mean, at the time, my ATM6, I didn't have an ATM6 built, so I basically had to build one for that mock. But now that I have one, I would really want to do maybe two or 3 more to kind of maybe do a better job at completing the scene of Crate. It was obviously characterized by, I think, the 8 ATM6s that were in that scene. I think 8 might be a bit much for me at this point in my career to build for a mock like that, but I would certainly like to do a few more ATM6s to make the mock maybe look a little bit better. I also would just like to kind of have a little bit more time to work on Crate. By the end of the mock, it was very rushed, and we didn't even get an opportunity to put a roof over the cave section. So those are a few things I would want to redo for that. For Vardos, my most recent mock, the biggest thing that I'd probably want to redo with that is just adding some interiors to the buildings. It was my first time wiring, so with the way that I did it, trying to incorporate the lights, I basically put myself in a position where I didn't really account for the wires being in the building, so that kind of made doing interiors a little bit more difficult. But if I had to go back and redo that mock, that would be the biggest thing I would want to add to it. And then finally, I think the mock that has the most potential for a redo, which is Scarif. And I mean, there are just so many things that we would do differently with Scarif. I talk to Garrett about this all the time because I think that's one that he's really excited about as well. But we would firstly want to make a bigger Citadel. Our Citadel was pretty big, but It was not the biggest Citadel. I have a personal goal of making the biggest Citadel. This is nothing against Chris Productions. It's just a personal goal of mine. I would love to have the biggest Citadel out there while also incorporating a vast interior, kind of like we did with our the Scarif mock we ended up making. I would also want to have numerous walkers going throughout the mock. I was only able to incorporate one walker. I think ideally I'd want to do 3 or 4 and have them kind of in various iterations. Like I'd like to have one of them just with a cargo crate removed that you could see straight through that we saw in the film. I'd like to have one of them being shot at by a U-wing and having it like breaking in half almost. I think that would be a really fun build to do, and just various things like that. I think that Scarif was just such an intense and vast battle scene. There's just so much you can do with it. And then just generally, I would want to make that mock much bigger. I would want to basically have maybe like 3 or 4 of those big landing platforms, and I'd probably want to build like 2 or 3 Zeta class shuttles, UCS ones, like that one sitting up there, that would be on those platforms. I'd probably have one like in the air with the wings down, like about to land on the platform, and I'd have another one maybe in mid explosion from when Bodhi dies, and just various things like that. There were so many, I think, recognizable scenes from the Scarif sequence, and I would really love to incorporate even more of those into a very large scale Scarif mock. Next question comes from ESB2. He says, "What is your opinion on Lego investing?" This is a really good question, and I feel it's slightly a controversial one. My honest opinion is, I mean, it's not something that I personally do. I feel you're not really going to get rich off of investing in Lego. I oftentimes feel it's a thing that people try to use to like justify their inherent need to buy Lego sets and have box sets in their collection. And I mean, I fall for this too. Like being Lego fans, I don't know what it is, the way the appeal, the allure of having like old boxed sealed sets sitting somewhere in our collection. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a thing, and I feel most of us suffer from it. I don't look down on people who do it, because I mean, with some of the clearance deals you can find, with some of like garage sale filings that you can get, and really just like the aftermarket markups on Lego sets in general, there's definitely some money to be made in it. I feel like if you're really interested in investing in something and you want your money to really work for you, buying Lego sets, sitting on them, and reselling them later probably isn't going to be the best use of your money. But I mean, if you're into Lego and you know a lot about it, it's definitely not the worst thing you could be doing with your money. It's not something I personally do, but I mean, I understand why people do it. Next question comes from Playmakes, and he says, "I know Lego has been lazy with the advent calendar minifigures, for example, BB-8 with Santa hat, then this year Porg with the Santa hat, but what is your opinion on the exclusive figure being Chewbacca in Life Day robe? I know it's not ever going to happen because the general public would not get it, but would you like to see that?" I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like that's just too obscure. I mean, it'd be like a funny thing to do, but the thing I like about the advent calendars is like the advent calendars have really kind of become like the May the 4th promo for us, because we've been getting exclusive figures in them. I think initially when they started out, the only exclusive figures we got in them were like the Santa figures, but now that they've kind of gone away from the Santa figures, we instead get an exclusive minifigure that's actually useful for our collection. Like last year, we got Blue Leader, for example, and Talk Merrick. So I like that, the way that they're going with that. As disappointing as it is that we don't get the like unique figures that are like the Santa figures, I think I'd much prefer the route that they are going in to give us like a unique figure that we can use in our collection. So I'm not too upset about the approach that they're taking to that. And like I said, I really do feel like the advent calendars are the new May the 4th promos. Since we're not getting minifigs for that, we're instead getting like special minifigures in those advent calendars, and I think that's kind of cool. Next question comes from Darth Talon 227, and he says, "What's the worst UCS set?" What a lovely question. Honestly, I don't feel like any of the UCS sets are awful. I think a lot of them, for their time, they were very good sets. Obviously, very detailed compared to normal Lego sets, so none of them are really just flat out bad. But the one that really sticks out to me as probably being the worst is probably the original X-Wing. And like I said, like for the time, it wasn't an awful set, but there's just a few things that are just so hard to get over about that set. And specifically, it's the engine size. The engines on that set, and even the most recent UCS X-Wing, are just way too small. They should be much bigger than what they are. And if you look at that old UCS X-Wing, it does not look very good in my opinion. So that would probably be my opinion on the worst one. I know there's a lot of other ones that people don't care for. For example, Assault on Hoth, and I think that was actually a reply he left to this question. He was like, "Not Assault on Hoth." He assumed that that was going to be the answer that I picked, but I don't think Assault on Hoth is the worst UCS set at all. I mean, I think that in a vacuum, it's not a bad set at all. It's a collection of a bunch of really iconic stuff from Hoth, and like if we didn't get those things so often, I think this would be a really valuable and cool set. But in a vacuum, I don't think Assault on Hoth is a bad set. But that X-Wing, that's a set only a creator can love. And the final question comes from Lego Guy 111266, and he says, "Would you like Rebel Friend to be a May the 4th figure?" I feel like this comes up so often. People are like, "Why isn't Lego making a Rebel Friend figure?" And honestly, as much as I love Rebel Friend, I went out and I like paid someone to make a custom version of it for me. I don't really fault Lego for not making one. Rebel Friend was kind of an obscure thing in the Lego Star Wars games, and I'm really just not sure how on the radar those old Lego Star Wars games are for like Lego nowadays. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they really don't ever talk about or acknowledge them. I feel like we're just so Lego's just so far removed from that. I wouldn't be surprised if um I don't know, Rebel Friend is not even like commonly known amongst the original creators. I mean, I could be totally wrong. It could totally be like a thing that they know about and they talk about, and there could be a Rebel Friend figure coming someday. I just really don't get the impression that that's something that they're really concerned about, and I don't really fault them for that. Like I said, it's an obscure thing from a video game that came out many years ago. It'd be cool to get, but I really have no expectations for Lego to ever make an official Rebel Friend, which is fine. That's why we have other people out there like Eclipse Graphics. They're the ones who made my custom Rebel Friend, and they did a pretty good job on it. So if you want your own Rebel Friend, go through them and do it just like I did. It's not that big of a deal. And that's going to finish up the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to me answering some questions. Like I said before, if you have a question you want to see answered in one of these videos, leave in the comment section below. Make sure it is Lego Star Wars or Lego Star Wars related, and then check back next week to see if you made the cut. Also, send me those intros. I need them. Yeah, that's going to finish up the video today, guys. So if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.